Wonderful, wonderful. So all three of you have mentioned the CERB, the Community Ethics Review Board, and I know all three of you are members, and I presented to the CERB a few times and had the pleasure to talk to you about research. Can you all tell us a little bit about why the CERB is important to the Flint community and kind of what it does for the community in terms of awareness of research?
Absolutely, I'll take that. Serving as the administrator for the CERB and invite Luther and Sharon to comment. But just to talk about the background of the CERB, I'd like to say that the CERB is the brainchild of Dr. Kent. And we've had the privilege of a lot of travel. And in one of his travels, he was at a conference, and I think it was CCPA, Community Campus Partnership for Health. And he had this idea that this is something we needed to do and get involved in. So he did all the preliminary paperwork. And because Flint has always been a place where researchers love us, for whatever reason, even before the water crisis. We've had researchers here doing research on this, that, and the other. And it has not always been guided, or the community has not always been protected. So the Community Ethics Review Board is a process where community members who have been trained, who know a little bit about ethics or the right and wrong of research, who have had human subjects training through the academic institutions, who are able to review work that researchers are bringing into the city, not to tell the researchers specifically how to do their work, how to choose the process that they will use, but we look at what's going to work in the community, what's going to be beneficial for the community. Because if it's not, and to be sure that it's not going to harm the community as a whole, not just the individual, but the community as a whole. We are able to discuss those projects with the researchers. We can point out certain things just because we are members of this community and we know what will fly in this community. We've experienced it. And we've been very successful in having our researchers, including yourself, Dr. Sneed, look at what you were planning to do. And it's always amazing to me when a researcher will say, wow, I never thought of that. And that's what the process is all about. It's not to stop the research, but it's about making it better so that it's beneficial. You get what you need, and so that the community gets what it needs. So it's just a check and balance. To be sure that things are going in the direction that it needs to go, to be sure that the community is at home.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I learned so much from just coming to certain meetings and learning from the experience that all of you will have about how to work in the community to make sure that community members aren't harmed by the work that we're doing. Right. Mr. Evans, Ms. Sadler, either of you want to add anything to that wonderful explanation?
Well, I'd just like to, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Pastor. I've had the privilege to be on both sides of the fence. It's been my honor and privilege to be a part of CERB. But before participating in CERB and being a part of the CERB, I had an opportunity to be a part of a research project that did not communicate with the community. And it was so problematic. It was so problematic. They asked us as teams to go into the community and garner information with clipboards. Unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, that's not nice. Most of the people who were taking the information were not African Americans. but they were going into African-American communities with clipboards and writing information. And things just started to snowball. People were complaining. It got to a point where the people who were gaining the data, writing the data, became adversarial. And at one point, because we would meet before we would go out, and I was steady saying, no, you can't do that. At one point, they wanted to use pepper spray on the neighbors. If someone came out and approached them about being in the neighborhood, what are you doing in the neighborhood? Why are you here? What are you writing? They were wanting to use pepper spray on the people. It was the people's community, their neighborhood, the people who were coming in. You are the strangers. You are the people who shouldn't be there, not the people who live in those houses. And every day I would go back and get into the biggest arguments with them, you know, to tell them that's not the way to do it. And I finally had to research pepper spray and found out it was illegal. And that was what I put on the table for them not to do that. But just the fact that they would actually take it to that extent because they felt like they were not getting the cooperation. Now, here's where it kind of blew up. On the radio, people were calling into WFLT and complaining over the radio about these strange people who are walking down the street, taking data in the neighborhood. And Dr. Bell was working at WFLT at that time. He knew what was going on. He knew that it was the university. He knew, you know, that I was a part of that team, and he informed me. I was able to call back and say, tell them that this is the University of Michigan, and I will inform the team that they are being viewed as strangers coming in because they were calling the police. The police were actually being called on the team that was gathering data. So that just shows you misunderstanding when researchers don't connect with community. You know, so that was before CERB. And so now CERB is like going home and getting your big brother and saying, okay, now let's do this, you know, because it added a level of safety for the community, yes, but also for the researchers. They were calling the police on the people who were gaining the data. You know, so now, and I think that they're still doing parts of those projects, but now they talk with the community first.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, that's a very wonderful point, that having review boards in place, like the review boards that all three of you are on, are really helpful in terms of making sure that community members are protected, but also that researchers are protected and know what they're getting into when they decide to do research in communities. Well, we are out of time. So I want to thank
I'm
all
sorry.
of you all. No, you all gave us some wonderful information. I want to thank all of you for coming and chatting with us today. I could talk to you all for hours, but I want to thank you all so much. We've learned some wonderful things about the importance of participation in research, in particular for Black older adults, to know about their own health status, to have a voice in the community, and also to make sure that the interests of the community are protected. So I want to thank all of you today for participating with us. This has been a wonderful discussion.